Alex Collier, Our Solar System and Earth's Future -1995. This an interesting lecture, if I may say so myself. There's some very specific information in it. I'm not going to pretend tell to you that I understand all of the things that are happening that I'm going to be telling you about. I am learning just like you. But next week's lecture, for those of you who can't make it, is about 4th and 5th density, and the year is 2013. It's not a misprint, that's what I've been told. 2013, a lot of things change. And that is what to expect, and how we are going to be going through it, how we are going to relate to each other. And this is really a preliminary to that lecture, instead of that lecture being 4 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and if you have questions, write them down, and I will try to go slow, and some things I will go over to make sure that you got it, okay, or you heard me right. Okay, our solar system and Earth's future. All of life strives to discover itself and stretch its boundaries of self-awareness. Conscious life forms make decisions regarding their motivations. They also at some point create a vision of what would best serve their personal agenda or journey of growth. Tonight, I'm going to share with you a probability of our solar system's future, which also includes us here on Earth. The universe is changing, evolving and creating right in front of us. Talking about us who are paying attention to what's going on out there. Some of the changes have already occurred on the new 12th density, 11th, 10th and 9th densities. And I'm going to explain that just a little bit later. That's what I'll be using the graph for. We on our level of density are just beginning to experience the feelings of change. We have not yet experienced the real movement and display of change in our galaxy as of yet. What will the changes be, how we will experience them, when and how? These are all great questions. Unfortunately, no one has the answers yet. There is, however, one answer to consider, and that is by the end of October 2013, according to the Andromedan Council, all consciousness will be 4th density. All consciousness that is 3rd density now, whether it is here on this planet or anywhere else in our galaxy, will be 4th density consciousness. That's end of October 2013. All consciousness will be 4th density. Some of us will be actually carrying 5th density light bodies. We'll also experience natural pole shift on the planet of 70 degrees. It will not be 90 degrees but 70 degrees. And in prior contacts and prior lectures, they have said that the new North Pole will be Saudi Arabia. Start looking for your alternative energy sources. We are about to discover the real power and love of creation, isness, God, generator of dimensions, whatever you call it. What has been discovered and experienced since March 23 of 1994 in our linear time is that the essence that created our universe, or the essence that creates energy that we use to create and manifest our belief systems, is both inside and outside our universe. This is the first time that it's actually been discovered by other dimensional beings. The Andromedans and the other races are aware of other dimensional universes within our universe, as well as other completely physical universes and other dimensional time continuums as well. They are also aware of their vibratory rate and other basic elements, which are completely different from our universe. Now this all fits together. That's why I have to break it down like this for you. On March 23 of 1994, 19 suns in our galaxy went through pole shifts. The north and south poles of these particular suns experienced 90-degree slip or 180-degree slip. 180-degree slip. The Andromedans feel that this is just a beginning. Now this is the first time it's ever happened, and it all happened at once. It's a very significant thing in the universe. I know it doesn't mean a lot here yet, okay, but out there it means a tremendous amount. It's very, very significant since it's never ever happened. They also feel that our sun will experience a pole shift in our near future. But they won't be real specific with me yet on that. Apparently there are things going on there. Indications that support this are that changes are occurring in all the stars that are 8 billion years old or older. There's something going on with the stars that are at least 8 billion years old or older. They are changing, something is happening to them. Again, they weren't real specific yet. This phenomenon occurred simultaneously with the emanation of a sound and color frequency being carried into the universe from all of the black holes in our known, explored universe. In other words, for the first time that's ever been recorded, a sound and a color vibration is actually coming out of the black holes. Nothing has ever come out of the black holes. In fact, they crush light. They just pulverized any form of energy whatsoever. Well, now they are still doing that, but at the same time something is coming up. The black hole is long known in Andromeda and other cultures as the source of all matter that created our universe is suddenly for the first time emanating an energy source. This is the first time that's ever been recorded in universal history. This is also the first time that anything has come out of the black hole since the initial creation of our universe 23 trillion years ago. The example is the Big Bang. And how they've explained it to me for those of you who are new, is that apparently much of the energy and matter that we have in our universe, including us as energy sources as souls, as consciousness, came from someplace else. And apparently the other universe, wherever we came from as it was evolving, there were certain energies that simply couldn't evolve with it, or they chose not to. Or they resisted it, or they were full of fear. Whatever the reasons were, they didn't evolve. So what happened was pockets of resistance were formed in this particular universe. And as it evolved up, it went through its shift. These pockets grew and grew until finally they burst. When they burst, matter just exploded. Like you would take a paintbrush and just splatter it on the wall, it just splattered everywhere. And this is why most of the galaxies in the center of almost every galaxy that they at least know of, has a black hole, the center of it, because it's a portal to somewhere else. So what has happened is that, what happened was all this matter splattered out, forming gas, planets, suns, stars, gas, and all kinds of different chemicals. And I'm not a scientist or engineer, but this is how they explained it to me. What is happening is we are now starting to move up. We were starting to go through this shift again, some of us. And what is happening is that pockets are now beginning to form of the negativity. And we have a lot of here, okay, and it's going to get interesting. What is on the other side of the black holes is unknown. The Andromedans, or any member of the council, even though is not part of the council, or other races and other universes, don't know positively what lies on the other side of the black hole. It's an absolute, don't go area. They use another word, but I couldn't pronounce it or spell it, so I'm just going to put it in English. Even the psychics and spiritual people that they have, who can project consciousness or can telepathically communicate against the universe, when they stand or project their energy into the black hole, they pull nothing back. They can't pull information, they can't pull impressions. It's absolute wall. Just don't go there. It could be that's opposite of God or something, which you just don't disturb. They cannot retrieve anything out of it consciously or otherwise, and yet this sound and color frequency is emanating from it as of March 23, 1994. What is even more mystifying is that this frequency is coded with program data that is affecting all of the energy frequencies and dimensions in our universe. Now, according to the Andromedans, there are 11 prime creational densities in our universe. There are also evolutionary densities within each of the prime creational densities. Apparently what's happening is that this new vibration, this 12th, is coming in and is connecting in a very different way all of the densities all the way down. And instead of you having to change your physical form to evolve into another form is totally different for that particular density, my understanding is based on their preliminary findings, is that certain souls literally will be able to walk into the next densities, instead of having to change your physical form and your makeup. This frequency carries the color of aquamarine on our third density level and another color on the other dimensional levels, even though it's only one color, one sound. It's different on every other dimension. This frequency carries a unique vibration and color on all the dimensional levels, even though it's the same sound and color on all levels. The encoded frequency carries, in the Andromedan perspective, profound wisdom and change. In other words, prepare for a huge conscious leap. It is coming regardless whether we're ready or not, or whether you're ready or not. It's coming, it's out of everybody else's hands as well. They're about to experience the same thing, maybe in different ways, but they're about to experience it. Evidence of this may be witnessed anytime soon. When the rains begin, and the rainbows start to appear, according to the Andromedans, you will start to see the color of aquamarine in our rainbows. So watch for this. What will this consciously be like? How will we know that it has happened to us? Besides, who is one of the Andromedans who's blessed me, has said that it will be in an awareness. It will be sudden to some and complete in its effect. The lifting of the veil will occur and you will remember your true essence. You will just suddenly know everything. To others it will be experienced and expressed differently. To others it will be very slow and it'll just be suddenly they realized the paint's been on the wall for 2 years, I never noticed that. Or the color of my car is white. Just little things suddenly start to become aware of their environment, what's going on around them. The fact that the neighbors next door had a cat, just little things. Now the changes that have occurred thus far are these, or what they have observed from this particular emanation that's coming from the black holes, is that it's a holograph that is reintegrating our present dimensional levels into a new frequency pattern. A lot of these sound scientific, but that's the way they talk to me sometimes. I know no more than that. The Andromedans are just now observing the changes on their level of consciousness, which is 3, 4, 5 and 6. They are just now starting to feel the changes there. The same holographic frequency carries a different color frequency on every lower dimension. From 11 down it's different. It adds a new color to each dimension as well as maintaining its new color integrity. The color here, of what it is here, I don't know. It's not something that I can describe. My own personal experience traveling with them is that once you go to 4th density, 5th density, everything is different. Totally different. There are colors there that can't be described. Our languages here are extremely limited in dealing with the realities that are waiting for us when we make this leap. So it'll be first day of school all over again. The energy or frequency is consciously magnetic. In that as it continues to form and build its polarity it is drawing the existing primary 11 densities up to it. In other words, the single frequency is responsible for the conscious evolvement of all life on all present dimensional levels. It is drawing everything up to it. Number 4, it contains profound awareness. It is starting to filter down into the lower levels of our densities. It has apparently changed the awareness level of the 11th, 10th and 9th densities radically in a very short time. Number 5, this new density also carries individual conscious awareness. New souls have appeared, developed an awareness beyond anything known in our universe. Now my understanding is that a lot of this information comes from dimensional beings higher that are talking to the Andromedans because the Andromedans can't be there for themselves to see it. These new souls have not made contact with any beings on any density as of yet. They are in an observational mode. They may be the first real angels of our universe. There's no name given to them as of yet either because nobody knows what they are. They don't know. They haven't attached anything to them as far as a label or a symbol or anything. Number 6. Because of this new frequency evolvement of all consciousness has been sped up tenfold from its normal evolvement state. A lot of you are experiencing things just moving very quickly on all different kinds of levels. Number 7. This frequency does not carry a balance of positive and negative polarities. This fact implies a specific purpose and direction. What that exactly is at present is unknown. I'll repeat that again. This frequency does not carry a balance of positive and negative polarities. This fact implies a specific purpose and direction. As of right now nobody knows exactly what it is. All they know is that everything is being drawn up into a higher consciousness almost overnight. In their terms of overnight, to us it's years. Things are a lot slower here. Number 8, this shift or ascension for a lack of a better word is occurring in other than 4 other universes at the same time in a similar fashion. Completely different physical universes are experiencing the same thing. We on the Earth are going to become much more aware of how unique our planet is in our galaxy. We are all going to receive an increase of awareness in our individual environments. Many people will feel a strong impulse to leave the cities and move into rural areas. When I was given this information I was given the rest of this. And it's predominantly about us, in specific, based on the fact that everything has been sped up. So, if you don't understand it just write down your questions. At the end of the lecture I will be more than happy to try to answer it for you provided I even have the answer. We are all about to discover who we really are. Not only true spiritual beings of essence, but also our physicalness. We are all experiencing in some form of pressures of crisis both inside us and around the world. We are in a time or period of technological leaps and discoveries beyond our wildest dreams. We are also experiencing philosophical understandings which will result in the change of all of the world's religions to a very personal relationship with self, nature and creation. We have also created an ecological disaster that is absolutely going to require the intention of everybody in order to pull it through. This will help to unite most of the common man for the good of humanity. Why is all of this happening all at the same time? Well, part of it is to do with the changes earlier discussed. But also the fact remains that it's time for humanity to leap on a conscious level. It was time anyway. We were moving in that direction anyway long before this started to occur. So you can't blame it on anything else, it was happening anyways. It's just now that somebody's pushed the accelerator down for us. Our physical form has been holding us back. Our physical form, Our physical bodies have been holding us back because of misplaced genetic coding or manipulation done to us tens of thousands of years ago by extraterrestrials from Orion and Draconis. Folks, they just tell you the way it is, so take it if it feels right, great, if doesn't, put it on the shelf or something. It's time to grow, now. In fact, yesterday, it was time to grow. Planetary speaking, our growth has been upheld by forces that fear change. That's our present government, that's the Orion group, which is a group of extraterrestrials, the Greys and Draconis. They have literally been holding this planet back, and not only this one but 21 others in our galaxy who are having to deal with the same kind of garbage that we are having to deal with. Who are just now beginning to find out on some level about how much they've been manipulated as well. So we are not the only ones. This is the restlessness that we all feel. Most are experiencing feelings and seeing that our religious systems, political, as well as social and economic systems have not really evolved individually or interactively with each other to the point where they are serving the purpose in which they were originally created. In other words, we are seeing a lot of things falling apart, and particularly in our country you are seeing our government just throwing money at it. Like that's going to fix it, and it's just making it worse actually. Instead of reorganizing it, and taking the time to figure out what the needs of the people are, they are just throwing more money at it and saying, well, that will fix it. And it's happening all over the world on different levels. We all know that we need to cooperate together as a global family. But, we are very suspicious of the leadership of this global government in our family, and very well and should be. They cannot be trusted. What is in place now absolutely cannot be trusted. And that is discussed in the lecture We the People. We as a race in the most fundamental way are going to experience the most all-encompassing perception and understanding of who we are as individuals and as a global race. In other words, big shifts are coming that are going to totally change our perspective on how we look at ourselves, how we look at our day-to-day life, to look at what we are doing with our lives, what our goals are. Everything is going to change radically and in a very short time apparently. What's real this awareness be? It will be an awareness that in our efforts to always strive forward and to create technology, comfort and advertised packaged answers for all of our problems. That was from Versailles, he wanted me to put that in there. Advertised packaged answers. For all of our problems we ran over our past with a free way of ridicule and contempt, and endearing suppression of our ancient legends and myths. We cannot know where we are going unless we can fully appreciate where we have been. And there's so much denial apparently on where we've been, that's one of the reasons why we are lost as a society. Because the real truth of where we've been and where we came from has been suppressed because it doesn't fit the control patterns or program patterns of those who are in control here. In other words, it empowers us, not them. It is time that the truth of our past as a planetary race was genetically created by extraterrestrials races, to shed light on all the contradictions that we find in our ancient history and in our present identity. For thousands of years, religions and science have been at odds with each other, causing confusion, chaos, wars, fear, deception and displacement of creative vision. We are going to witness and experience in the next 10 years, 2004, the release of facts regarding our ancient languages and the explorers of our past, and the discoveries of archaeology and astronomy. These truths of our past origins and will point to an incredibly bright future. To put it most simply, our new spiritual realization or leap in consciousness will come from the quiet field of science and archaeology and not from religions. It's going to be science that's going to give us the boost we need for leaping. It's not going to be religion, it's not going to be spiritual teachings, it's going to be science, facts. It's going to say this is who we really are, which will be an incredible shift for a lot of people, especially the debunkers. Because here they are, resting their laurels and basing their realities on science, and science is going to turn around and totally blow them away on a conscious level. The barriers of race, religious doctrine, politics and philosophy will completely shatter in the next 10 years. And that will be 2004. By then things will be well on their way. You'll be sitting by your televisions wanting to see the news just to find out what they discovered today. Now, the discoveries that we will become part of are as follows. These are some of the things they say in the next 10 years that we are going to be a part of, that we are going to discover, that we are actually going to find out about. Somebody is going to leak and tell us about it. 1. Scientific proof of dimensions and higher self spiritual consciousness. I don't know how they are going to prove it. 2. Reincarnation will be scientifically proven and demonstrated. 3. The acknowledgement of other life in the galaxy and our universe. Ample proof already exists on the Moon, Mars and on Earth, and will be shared with humanity. It could be that we will have a group of renegade scientists that say enough is enough. 4. Face-to-face contact with extraterrestrials races will occur. It will actually happen a lot sooner than 10 years, but within the next 10 years we will have contact with at least 9 different races. We will have face-to-face contact with at least 9 extraterrestrials races in the next 10 years. 5. The introduction of free clean energy devices based upon the magnetic fields of energy that permeate all existence. 6. That the Earth is in fact hollow and capable of sustaining human life very comfortably. Also the existence of a city known as Kalnogar within the hollow Earth originally built by Lyrans. That's within the next 10 years. 7. The rediscovery of the lost lands of Atlantis and the Atlantic Ocean. In the Pacific Ocean, a very large temple complex still intact once belonging to Lemuria will also be discovered. Now according to the Andromedans, we are going to hear this, we are going to share in these discoveries. Which means if you know the reputation of the powers that be now, you can imagine what they are going to hide if this is what we are going to find out about. 8. The reality that all that we perceive in the physical is a holographic imprint that is directed and created from a higher portion of ourselves. 9. That human consciousness is not in the brain but located in its entirety in the energy field and/or the aura. 10. How our past and present educational processes have not prepared us to be completely conscientious creative thinkers, but more like robots that can be shaped by peer pressure. This has all been part of the program. 11. That organic and plant life forms do exist on 7 planets and 15 moons in our solar system. 12. The rediscovery that each of us is a part of the whole of the universe, and that we are a significant part of that idea we call God. And God is the idea of love. 13. That this accelerating self-discovery being experienced throughout the universe was created and activated by all of us in the universe. I don't know how they know that. 14. We as a byproduct of extraterrestrial genetic manipulations are possessors of a vast gene pool that has many different racial memory banks of at least 22 extraterrestrial races in our DNA. Because of our genetic heritage of having these 22 different races, we are all considered royalty. All we need to do is acknowledge it, acknowledge ourselves and seize our true history. In other words, the only fear we have is the fear of what we think we are. After we have accomplished this, we can free ourselves from the conditioning and programming of our creator gods and our extraterrestrials. We need to learn to accept our uniqueness in planetary adulthood and know that we are our own inheritance. And only then, they feel that we can honestly and maturely create our future the way we want it to be. What is that future? Here's their definition: responsible freedom of self-determination. Becoming truly self-confident and free to unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced to accept some higher authority. 15. According to the Andromedans, the reason our planet has not had mass contact as a race is because of the fact that we as a race don't remember who and what we are. We are having a severe identity crisis. It also means that there are a few working this Earth who remember other planetary existences or even previous life forms, let alone previous lifetimes. Some have sought spiritual development through various healing methodologies and meditations in the hopes of enlightenment. The Andromedans have taught and are teaching that judgments both present life and past life must be cleared from the cellular imprint of the soul. As one does achieve this, one becomes aware of other planetary existences, and one's true planetary heritage. We have limitless possibilities to be and find satisfaction, joy and fulfillment in our lives and in our relationships with one another. By rediscovering direct contact with our own essence of being, we can remember freedom that is not only a freedom of external restraints but also free expression, meaning and value of what it is to truly be a human being. Apparently our perception of this gift that we have needs severe tuning up in their opinion. Apparently we are really blessed to have the forms that we have, and have the genetics that we have. This lack of self-knowledge and understanding is itself the root of our problems on many different levels. Once we learned, this intrinsic freedom becomes a lived and practiced reality that all the other freedoms will naturally follow after that. Once we have learned to take responsibility for ourselves. Apparently not on the third density level, but on the other density levels as well. Are there any questions up to this point? Q. I have a few questions. I am not really clear on the difference between a dimension and a density level. AC. I am not either. Apparently there's certain levels or stages within each density that you spiritually have to evolve in. What those are I really don't know. I haven't even been given clarification. Q. It seems that from the way you are describing it that there is some correlation between third density and the third dimension of reality. AC, the only example that I can give you based on a limited knowledge that I have of exactly what it is, and I will use myself as an example. I incarnated many different times to learn different things in third density reality. When I've achieved my agenda of what it is that I need to experience on this level, then I move to the next level. Or apparently on the fourth density level, when you incarnate you are in a different form. Or you have been in a different form. You take on a totally different life form, different genetics, different conscious awareness, etc. Now each of those lifetimes could possibly be stages. You could look at those as stages of evolution within that parameter, that agenda. Like your first year of college. Then when you get to fourth density, when you go through all those incarnations over and over again, that's your second year of college. When you get to fifth density it continues the same. Everybody's agenda is different though. But you can do all that in third dimensional reality? Experience third density, fourth density, fifth density. End of side 1. The physical now, if I understand their information correctly, is now becoming more in harmony with the spirit essence, and the vehicle together is moving up. The whole vehicle is now going to be able to experience third, fourth and fifth density in stages as opposed to you having. The fact that we came from another universe would imply that we've already been through some changes like this. We've done this before on some level. My understanding is that some of us as souls have come back to help, to experience, to hold a position of strength and cohesiveness or grounding. Not everybody started in first grade here. Some of us actually, from what I understand, volunteered to come back. My question is related to. We live here in this body form, learning whatever lessons that we are learning, and then we drop the body and make the transition, and we'll come back in another body. Are we still in third density while we are making the transition on the other side? AC, no, you are not. You move on up then to fourth density and then you come back down. AC, your essence of you apparently its all was fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimension, all the way up? That is the thing we call our higher selves. AC, right, apparently it's tapped into everything, but you know, I don't have all that. I have a question about language. First of all, what language do the Andromedan people you've met speak? AC, when they speak to each other they don't use a language, it's all telepathic, and when they talk in circles, in groups. And as they are talking there is nodding, there is bobbing, and right where their third eye is there is flashes of color. Different colors, colors I've never seen before. And every thought, every word is a different color. So it's like watching this huge electric light show or fireworks. 4th of July fireworks going on inside this small circle. And when they are done talking, one of them will turn to me and either telepathically communicate with me, or will speak English to me. What's going to happen to Earth languages in the next 10 years? AC, I don't know. But I know that by the year 2013 many of us will be telepathic, and clairaudient and clairvoyant as well. It's a natural process that will be occurring. Will it be when we have the 70% polar shift? AC, the highest probabilities are, and I stress me a probability, they don't really know for sure when it's going to happen because it's based on us, on our consciousness and the planet's reaction to us. The highest probabilities are anywhere between 2007 and 2009. That's the highest probabilities now. Do the Andromedans it as soul? AC, yes, they're spirit, an essence just like us. My understanding is that there are some life forms that are not spiritual essence, that are strictly organic. There is one particular life form race of beings that is not spiritual, that do not have a soul, and that is the very loyal reptilian line of beings from Alpha Draconis. They apparently were dumped here from another universe because they couldn't deal with them wherever they were from. And apparently from all indications that I've heard so far they are not going to be evolving. They've definitely got to take so far in one of these places here. In one of these pockets. So whatever their lesson is I have no idea. They don't contain souls, even though they are incredibly aware and have consciousness, they can build flying craft, they don't have a spiritual essence. So they are not responsible for the AC, no they are responsible, but they just don't. Like we do. The race just keeps propagating until the next state. The are not. They are what they are. We were going to talk about them in a later lecture when we were dealing with the 22 different races. We'll deal specifically with that in detail. There's a lot. I don't want to get into the whole thing now, but there's a lot to that. You were saying last week that there would be a war, like a war in the Nostradamus prophecies. AC, no, there will not be a nuclear war. We couldn't survive it, the aliens couldn't survive it, and more importantly the Earth couldn't survive it. The atmosphere simply cannot take any more. And again I come back to this when I say this in every lecture. According to the Andromedans we have 41 years worth of oxygen left in our atmosphere. If we continue to pollute there's going to be no way we can repair it, and we are going to deal with that issue next week when we talk about fourth and fifth density. 3,500 years ago, the oxygen content in our atmosphere was 38%. In order for human beings to exist on the surface the oxygen content has to be at least 15%. As of right now it's under 18% and it's dropping steadily. Because we were killing the forests, plankton, the algae, everything that produces oxygen. Q. This question is totally incomprehensible. AC. I'll tell you what little I know. The real person you need to talk to is Liberty. I'll tell you what I do know but that's what she does, that's her forte. Apparently, when we come into the physical we not only choose our parents, but our form, our look, our experiences, where we want to grow up etc. deformities, handicaps, all that. And we spiritually imprint that into our physical DNA. And what goes with that is the lessons and stuff that we carry with us. There's a misconception that fourth and fifth density is a really incredibly blissful, angels flying around place. There are two polarities in fourth and fifth density. My understanding is that it isn't until you get to sixth density that you don't deal with the polarities of positive and negative. You still have the polarities, but they don't war at each other like they do here. They create their own spaces, completely different spaces on a dimensional level. But here the two are totally intermingling and bouncing off each other, as well as in the fourth and fifth densities. So fourth density people there, as you will experience yourselves, you will have a physical form. You will still need to care for your physical body on fourth density, even though you have fourth density consciousness and the planet has moved into a fourth dimensional consciousness. It isn't until you get into fifth density that your physical form turns back into the crystalline light that it originally is, that you are a spirit. And there you can be a shapeshifter, you can take any shape you want. But until you reach that point you still have a physical form. And that physical form holds and imprints karma, negativity. All the emotions that we experience here are very much the same thing, probably almost identical. So it's not like let's hurry up and get to fourth density and all our problems end. It just isn't that simple. Nobody gets away without taking responsibility for themselves. That's the bottom line. Q. Before you mentioned that the Andromedans said that it's our consciousness that's ascension process fourth or whatever. It would seem to me that that implies we already have a mindset or the percentage we need for the ascension and that it might be useful to keep that in mind. Not to say that we don't have work to do but that we whatever, and so am I right? AC, you're absolutely right. All this information is being given to us not only from myself but from all the other people. Independent researchers who are out there working their knuckles to the bone, trying to get information and share it with people no matter who they are. Everybody is a piece of the puzzle. And all the information has been here to empower us, to move faster, to be independent, to be creative thinkers, in other words to become godlike, no matter where we are. It's all about empowerment. Some of us are resistant in some areas, and some of us aren't. In many ways there's no right or wrong about what your path is as long as you don't hurt other people. Q. You said that we had a gene pool from 22 races. If that's the case and we have such a genetic structure, why are we short-lived, and why do we have so many problems with disease that are terminating to the body and permanent? AC. Great question. 2 reasons. 1. We have totally polluted our environment, which we are responsible for. Chemicals, the air, the water. We've made a disaster of everything thinking that science is going to fix it and save us. 2. The reason that we are short-lived is that many tens of thousands of years ago a group of extraterrestrials came here and said, oh my God, look at these people. They are humans and they have all these genetics and they are incredibly powerful and we can never control them unless we take 10 strands of their DNA out. Then we will be able to control them forever. Because they will never be able to evolve physically and spiritually at the same time, and that's exactly what happened. We originally had 12 strands of DNA, 10 have been taken out of us as a race. This happened tens and tens of thousands of years ago and this is the result. We all know it's there, we just don't know how to get there. And according to the Andromedans it's our physical form that's been holding us back because they manipulated our physical form to keep us as workers, I don't want to use the term slaves but rather workers for whatever their reasons are. Q. So in the Bible where it talked about people living so long that's pre-genetic manipulation? AC. Yes, apparently so, or they were genetically manipulated by a specific group of extraterrestrials and only that family or that particular tribe of people at that particular time were genetically altered while the rest were left to fend for themselves. The best example of that, and I don't mean to insult anybody here, but the best example of that would be Jehovah, who many in the Bible would call Yahweh, and he was an extraterrestrial. No ifs ands or buts, he was. And he took a particular tribe called the, who later became the Hebrew. They were wild gypsies at the time and just took care of them and gave them certain knowledge and certain technologies and also played games with them. Genetically manipulated them, also took some of the women, took some of the young men, and they were never seen from again, but that's a whole another story. That's a whole another lecture. I don't want to get into that so nobody asked me questions about it. Q. Was the DNA actually removed or is it just dormant? In other words, is there any way for us to get it back? AC. Good question. Apparently the strands were removed. My understanding now though is because of the changes that are going on here and certain other influences, which have not been made specific to me. Apparently our DNA now is stretching and 83rd strands of DNA is now being formed within us. Could be that we were tired of waiting and we are calling it down ourselves, just saying enough is enough. But I understand that there are some extraterrestrial influences that are doing that as well as this new 12th density. It's stretching everybody's awareness and physical forms so that we can adapt to the new energies that are coming in. The result of that is the stretching of our DNA and a new strand being added. Other than that I do not know much more. Q. Was it that we had 12 strands and 10 were taken away? We've had one for quite a long time. AC. 2 strands of DNA. Virtually all of the human extraterrestrial races that haven't been genetically altered have all the strands. Q. I cannot understand this question. AC. Yes it is. Q. I have a couple of questions. Where are the Andromedans here? They are on 4th, 5th and 6th density. They look just like human? Do they come down to 3rd density for you or do they pull you up? AC. They have on occasion. They actually have been right here walking on the planet. I usually go up. It's a lot easier and safer for them to. Q. Do they change your density when they do that? AC. I can only go to 4th. I can't physically go to 5th. Q. And my second question is, the idea of the year 2013 sounds really good to me. It's the next 20 years that I'm having some trouble with here. I understand where we are now. I understand that the Greys are here. I understand that the Draconians are here and all of this stuff. Then I understand 2013, but what I am not sure about is like 2004. I would like to go to sleep for the next 20 years or so, but obviously that is not going to happen. A lot of people are going to be making some transitions here anyhow, apparently. It looks like that to me with any luck at all. AC. There will be a shedding of physical forms, but nobody ever really dies. Q. My problem is not dying, my problem is living through all this. Okay AC, just take it one day at a time. I don't know what else to say here. We are all going to be here, we are all going to have to deal with it. Q. I know we're going to have to deal with it. I guess what I'm asking is this business about. Last week we talked about the moon, Mars and all that. We know that these guys are here. We know that something is going to happen in 2 years. The spaceships are going to appear, and it seems to me that at this point we have to take a look at that, because that's going to come here first. And we have to take a stand someplace and do something or say something. Have it talked to you about that at all? Or are they just waiting for us to come up with ideas? AC. They would much prefer that we take responsibility for our reality. They are very, very concerned about wanting to be a savior, especially with the connotations that it has on our planet and in our consciousness. They simply don't want that role whatsoever, which is why certain information and certain energies are occurring that are bringing a lot of this awareness to light. Where people are starting to wake up and say, hey, what's going on? Because ultimately if we do it ourselves then we've all learned a lesson once and for all. If somebody comes in and does it for us and it doesn't turn out, we have somebody to blame and we're not taking responsibility for it. Since the soul is eternal, we can create this all over again if we need to, if we don't get it this time. My very small part in all of this is to help that I get it, and that we all get it. I would prefer not to have to deal with this anymore. Q. What is their concept of enlightenment? AC. In their perspective, and they say that a level of us, A part of us is already enlightened. The fact that you're here, you yourself, is a miracle in itself. You are enlightened, you just need to build the bridge between where you are now, and who you think you are now, to whom you really are. That's what enlightenment is. There is no one sure way to do it. Everybody's journey is different, everybody's path to get there is different. That's what makes you so unique. You on some levels are already enlightened because you're eternal. As far as Buddha was part extraterrestrial. He had an extraterrestrial father and an earth mother. And he had a specific purpose for being here. Now Jesus, on the other hand, is another matter. Now I just want to preface this that I was born and raised a Catholic. Please don't hold that against me, but I'm just going to tell you what they have said, and apparently there's something's coming to light, and there's been some research that validates this to a degree. But you just need to feel this for yourself. According to the Andromedans, the biblical identity person known as Jesus was a composite character. He was not an actual physical soul who walked around doing those things. He is the makeup of at least 4 different people. And they took all of these stories and information together and created a religion, combining the Western religions and the Eastern religions. The idea of becoming Christ-like is good, it's valid. There are some beautiful things there that should be emulated. However, the part about having to go through him or go through another entity to get to heaven or to achieve enlightenment in their own opinion is absolute bull. That philosophy is being used to control. Q. Who created this composite character? AC. The composite character was created by the Roman Church. Constantine the Great, and apparently there were influences that the Church was given not only through the Orions but also the Greys. The Shroud of Turin, I was told, was created by the Greys specifically. They put a holographic imprint through a cloth, and there it was. A third-dimensional cloth. Everybody thinks it's Jesus and it isn't. That's what they have said. They also said that the crucifixion has holographically being inserted in our history using time travel. It is not a reality. We don't need to punish and sacrifice in order to experience love. It's a lie. Q. Are there certain groups or families that come from that lineage that still have some of the old DNA on our physical level? AC. No, unless in their physical form in this lifetime there's been some genetic manipulation. Now there are different blood types. There are those that have a lot of copper in their bloodstream called the blue bloods, but unfortunately that is extraterrestrial heritage. But they still in their physical form have the 2 DNA. We all got strapped to the same saddle, because if one could figure out how to do it, he could teach the others. Of course they wouldn't want that. Q. I have a question about physical death. When the human being on this planet in the 3rd density physically dies, from what they've told you, what exactly happens? AC. They haven't, but there are other people here. You know, there are so many areas that you can cover. I haven't covered that area, but my understanding is there are researchers who are involved in that kind of work. There are also people who have written books who have had those experiences, who have actually died, crossed over, and then have come back into physical form. They wouldn't know more about it right now than I would. So I would suggest that you do some research on that level. But you don't die. Your physical form dies, but the real you doesn't. Q. So I won't lose consciousness. AC. When you're up there you will have all the consciousness you want. The minute you incarnate back in here, you have this precognizant agreement to physicality and you have a veil. So you go through a whole another set of agendas, but you don't necessarily have conscious memory of who you were in your very last lifetime. A lot of people now are starting to get that because they're going through past life research, and they're learning to pull all of that information out of the subconscious. Because the subconscious records all that, and that's part of your energy field. So your energy field has all the information of who you were, who you've been, where you've been, and when you were there. It is all of that. So there are people who can help you get to that. Q. If you were born outside of the atmosphere, would you not have a veil? AC. You do not have a veil, that's my understanding. For some reason you are free of the veil. Outside of the atmosphere and gravitational pull of the earth you do not have a veil. That's what they've told me. If you were born on the moon you apparently know who you were in your last life. Q. So are you an intelligent person right from when you're born? AC. No, you still go through. You were still a child and you still go through the points of having conscious thoughts, and seeing things and knowing things, but not being able to speak. You go through of evolutionary things. But my understanding is that the probabilities of a child being born a genius outside of the atmosphere are far greater than it would happen here. Q. Do the Andromedans wear clothes? AC. Yes, they wear clothes. They wear jumpsuits, and at times I've seen Marini, who's very, very big, wearing what looks like a military uniform at times. Q is the reason that they don't come down and work interference with us because they don't want to be known as our saviors. They want us to take responsibility for ourselves. The question is, why don't they run interference? Because they have mind control techniques, they have these awesome weapons, they have technology way beyond us, they have all these human military forces around us. AC, well, there's a question of intervention. How far do you intervene? 2, dealing with our free will. And 3, is us becoming independent. Once we become aware that they are running interference for us because our dependence on them grow, or does it lessen? Based on our programming and our conditioning, it's going to grow, which means they're going to be sucked into a savior mode. And they absolutely don't want to do that. So there's a lot of different factors, plus intervention with us changes their reality on a great level as well. Because now they're part of the drama. Q. Alex, I know a lot of the extraterrestrials are limited as to what they can do because of cosmic laws or interference laws and dealing with coming down and affecting the planet and changing our society. Have they said anything to you about any of the terrestrial races like inner Earth people? Can those people intervene or help us to much more of a degree because they are terrestrial? They are not bound by non-interference laws or directives. Have they commented at all on that? Will they help, and to what degree can they help as far as letting us live next to them? AC. That's actually next week's lecture. Yes, there are things going on inside the inner Earth that are being used to help to create polarity on the outside. Will we be able to live in the inner Earth while things go through the changes? The answer to that also is yes. Virtually all planetary bodies in our galaxy and in this universe are hollow, including the suns. Q. But isn't that where Draconians are? AC. No, they are within the Earth's crust. If you were to go from right here and dig a hole 800 miles down, maybe 810, you would reach the inner Earth. But between 100 miles and 200 miles beneath the surface, that's basically reptilian area, reptilian land. That's their area. There's at least 1833 here that have been here for a very long time. And there's also some working with our government that are part of the Orion group and the Draconis group that are working within the underground military installations, the Moon and Mars. When it all comes out, you are going to be amazed. And even I, because I don't know all of it yet, how many different life forms are actually living on the Earth. We don't have a clue of that, not a single clue. Q. So is Sasquatch one? AC. That's a reality. Those legends and myths, unless there's a basis in truth, there's no way they could exist through the ages. There has to be a basis of truth for these things to persist for thousands of years. Even though science keeps ridiculing it, people keep seeing them, or experiencing it, and part of us recognizes the fact that on some level, yes, this is a reality, there is something to it, even though we ourselves can't put our finger on it. There are still dinosaurs too inside the inner Earth. Q. I would like to make a comment that the Native Americans have the legend that when the world ends, that there's always a group of people that go to the inner Earth to survive it. The question I have for you, have they commented or mentioned anything about the reality of Gaia being a living being, and if so, where that consciousness resides, if it is like a real separate entity? I know the Earth is a living being, I accept that. Is it just called Gaia, or does it have an attachment to a particular anthropomorphic person? AC. Yes, the Earth is the living being. Yes, it tends to carry more of a feminine energy. As far as attaching a name to it, that's limiting who or what it is. Where the essence is of it, it's in the earth, the stones, it's in the trees, the grass, it's in the air, the clouds, it's all of it, that's where the essence is. And on some levels she is feeling incredibly betrayed, which is why we are going to have a pole shift, because her survival as a physical is being threatened now. So she's going to have to take matters into her own hands. Q. My question has to do with the pole shift. I guess what happens on Earth when there is a pole shift, but you talk about all these suns pole shifting, is that a big deal? AC. Apparently it's changing the entire energy of our galaxy, and it changes the vibratory rate of those particular solar systems in which those suns rotated. Q. You look at the sun and you think, well, does it have a top and a bottom? Who cares? It all seems pretty hot, but I guess it does though. AC. It does. It's still magnetic. Otherwise it would be rolling around all the time. Q. Did the Andromedans ever show you a simulation of the pole shift? AC. If you were thinking of moving, I would go east of the Rockies. Q. You were saying something about time travel. You were saying that it is very easy for the Andromedans and other races to travel through time. Can you talk about that for a bit? AC, well, what I know about it is basically what you have to do is be able to bend light. Everything is on a frequency, and that if you can bend that frequency and put yourself within that frequency, the time frequency, and once you are within that time frequency you can travel either way, backwards or forwards in time. My understanding is that you can only go forwards to 2013. No matter who you are, that's as far as you can go when you are on the Earth's timeline. But you can go back to almost the beginning, to the very beginning of where it was being formed as a massive gas and everything else. Q. My next question is, why wouldn't the Andromedans just go back in time and kill off all the Greys, and kill off all the reptilians? AC. Because the Greys comes from someplace else. They are not part of the Earth, they invaded the Earth. It's just not that simple. Then what? You killed all the Greys and that's going to affect other belief systems which the Greys have manipulated. Which means that now the Andromedans have to manipulate our belief systems to make them right. Which means that is direct intervention, which is something that they are not supposed to do with an evolving race. And if they do it, then they've broken their own law and they cannot expect anybody else to abide by. That's the problem. That was in another lecture that we dealt with specifically, in an earlier lecture. It's not a simple black and white answer, at least not yet. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. I hope to see your faces next week and God bless.